Chapter 1. How have recent historical events affected the course of both research and practice in organizational psychology? Well, since 2020, several major events have significantly shaped both research and practice in organizational psychology. One of the biggest of them all was the COVID-19 pandemic. This accelerated the shift to remote and hybrid work environments. Because of this, research has increasingly focused on work-family conflict, employee well-being, and how to manage virtual teams effectively. For example, organizations have had to rethink how they maintain productivity while also supporting their employees' mental health. Flexible work arrangements have become more common. This can reduce burnout and improve their work-life balance. However, research also shows that without clear boundaries set in place, employees can always feel like they're on, increasing their stress and fatigue levels. Another major development has been the increased focus on diversity, equity, and inclusion. Organizations are now more intentional about reducing bias in hiring and creating inclusive workplace cultures. This has led to more research on topics like selection, on fair selection processes, and inclusive leadership. Additionally, trends like Great Resignation have shifted attention toward employee retention, engagement, and meaningful work. Organizations are now realizing that employees are way more likely to stay when they feel valued and supported. Overall, these events have pushed organizational psychology to become more focused on flexibility, well being, and creating environments that support both performance and the individual. Chapter 3, Question 2. If I were the one to consult with a university to increase diversity in faculty hiring, the first thing that I would start with is expanding the recruitment pipelines, because research shows that applicant diversity is heavily influenced by where the organizations recruit. Instead of relying on traditional academic networks, I would recommend building relationships with diverse professional organizations and then attending the conferences that support underrepresented scholars. This helps reach candidates who may not otherwise be exposed to that opportunity. The next thing I would do is I would review the job descriptions just to make sure they're not unintentionally discouraging the applicants who are applying. Sometimes overly strict or unnecessary requirements can limit the applicant pool. Broadening the qualifications while still maintaining standards can increase the diversity without lowering the quality. I would also recommend incorporating structured hiring practices like diverse search committees and standardized evaluation criteria. These can help reduce bias and make sure that the candidates are being evaluated consistently. Additionally, organizations should consider hosting virtual information sessions or even networking events. These can help candidates feel more connected to the institution and provide clarity and expectations or responsibilities to their role. Overall, increasing diversity requires intentional effort in both the recruitment strategies and the selection processes, ensuring that organizations attract and fairly evaluate a wider range of qualified candidates. Chapter 4, question number 3. To retain a high performer, reducing the work-family conflict is extremely important. Research shows that when employees feel supported in balancing their work and their personal life, they experience higher job satisfaction and are more likely to remain with that organization. In many professional environments, especially those with demanding or unpredictable schedules, employees can quickly experience their role overload. This makes it extremely difficult to meet both work and personal responsibilities, which leads to stress, decreased engagement, and potential burnout over time. One recommendation that I would give is to provide flexibility where and when possible. like allowing employees some control over their schedules or how they complete their work. This increases autonomy, which is strongly linked to well being and long term retention. Even small adjustments like flexible start times or remote work options can make a big difference. Second, managers should set clear expectations around communication, especially outside of the work hours. When employees feel like they must always have to be available, it prevents them from fully disconnecting and recovering, which can quickly lead to exhaustion. Third, regular check ins are important. Managers should take time to understand their employees' needs, ask about their workload, and adjust support when it is necessary. This also helps employees feel valued and understood, which strengthens commitment to the organization. Finally, promoting a culture that truly values balance, such as encouraging them to use their time off, respecting their boundaries, and modeling those behaviors as a leader, can make a significant difference. If leaders don't model balance, employees are less likely to feel comfortable taking advantage of that. When organizations actively reduce work family conflict, employees are more engaged, productive, and committed to that organization long term, which is especially important when trying to retain high performing individuals. Chapter 5, question number 4. One of the issues I've noticed in many job descriptions is an overemphasis on organizational citizenship behaviors, like being dependable or a team player, while the actual job tasks are not clearly defined. I've seen this in roles like internships or entry level positions, where the description lists qualities like hardworking or a positive attitude, but gives very little detail about what the person will be doing day to day. While these interpersonal qualities are important for the job, they should not replace the clear expectations about what the job actually requires from the employer. Without that clarity, employees may feel uncertain about how their performance is being evaluated or what they need to prioritize in their role. This can ultimately lead to confusion, decreased performance, and frustration for both the employee and the supervisor in the role. To improve a job description, I would first clearly define the core tasks and responsibilities. This includes outlining daily tasks, key performance indicators, and what success looks like in the role for that employee. For example, instead of saying assist with team operations, I would specify tasks like track attendance, analyze performance data, or coordinate weekly meetings. Second, I would ensure alignment between the job description and how performance is measured. If employees are being evaluated based on specific outcomes, those expectations should be clearly stated and put up front so there's no surprises. Third, I would still include organizational citizenship behaviors, but position them as supportive qualities rather than their primary responsibilities for that role. They should enhance performance, not replace competence. Finally, I would ensure the language is clear, specific, and realistic, avoiding any vague terms that don't provide meaningful guidance. Overall, a well designed job description should prioritize task clarity while still acknowledging the importance of interpersonal behaviors, leading to stronger performance, clearer expectations, and better overall alignment within the organization. Lastly, Chapter 6, question number 5. If an organization is experiencing an increase in employees working fewer hours than they're expected to, I would first look at potential organization constraints rather than just assuming it is simply an issue of motivation or effort. In many cases, counterproductive work behavior is a response to the environment, not just the individual. One likely factor is unclear expectations. If employees do not fully understand their workload, time requirements, or what is considered acceptable performance, they may unintentionally underperform. For example, if there are no clearly defined start and end times to their day, or if productivity is emphasized over hours without clear benchmarks, employees may interpret expectations very differently. Another issue could be a lack of accountability systems. Without clear performance metrics, time tracking, or regular check ins from their supervisor, it becomes easier for employees to disengage or reduce their efforts over time. When there is little visibility into performance, employees may feel that their behavior is not being monitored or evaluated. Burnout is also an important consideration. If employees feel overworked, undersupported, or stretched just a little too thin, they may intentionally or unintentionally reduce their hours as a way to cope with that burnout. In this case, the behavior is less about laziness and more about managing their stress or avoiding further exhaustion for themselves. Additionally, poor or inconsistent in communication from their leadership or supervisor can contribute to confusion and decreased engagement. If expectations vary between supervisors or are not consistently reinforced, employees may not feel a strong sense of responsibility or accountability. This inconsistency can create different norms across work groups, which may explain why the issue is more prevalent in certain teams. To address these issues, the first thing I would do is recommend clearly defining their job expectations, including specific work hours, responsibilities, and what the performance standards are. Employees should have a clear understanding of what is expected of them on a daily and weekly basis. Second is implementing stronger accountability systems like time tracking, regular performance evaluations, and consistent supervisor check ins. This would help ensure expectations are being met and provide structure to that employee. Third, I would evaluate whether employees have the resources and support that they need, including manageable workloads, proper training, and access to their supervisors. Addressing burnout and improving support systems can help re engage employees. Finally, improving communication and consistency across leadership is vital. Managers should be aligned in how they set expectations and hold employee accountability to avoid mixed messages. Ultimately, counterproductive work behavior is often a symptom of deep organizational constraints. So, by improving the clarity, accountability, commitment, communication, and support, the company can reduce these behaviors and create a more productive and engaged workforce.